So, this is the model railroad that I've been working on. I think I'm going to go back to working on it. Mainly because the ship that I've been working on takes up so much room. I have to put it away for the winter because I'm bringing in loads of firewood now in wheelbarrows, and I need room in here for that. So anyway, I thought I'd make a video of this as in its current state. This building here, this as you can see, it's Fellows Gear and Foundry. So they'd be getting coal and shipping out stuff, and getting raw materials from the railroad. And this one back here, that's called Eustis. It's wholesale plumbing, so they're getting boxcars full of plumbing and stuff, large boilers and whatnot. And then over here, back on this track, that's Bolster's warehouse. There was a Bolster's in Brattleboro, so that's why I chose that name. There was a Fellows, and there was also, well, Fellows was in Springfield, Vermont. Eustis was in Brattleboro. And then right here's, this is Valley Coal and Oil. This is their oil receiving facility. Back here on the back track again, this is Flowmatic Paints. Flowmatic was also in Brattleboro. They used to make the yellow paint that the state used on the center lines of the roads. It was amazing paint. I knew a guy that worked there, so I got a bunch of it and used it on my vehicles, painting vehicles, frames and stuff like that. So this is D&J Noss, grocery and wholesale food wholesalers. They've got 2 loading docks. You can see. Then right here, that ramp, that wooden loading dock, that's on the team track. Team track is where everybody in town who doesn't have railroad access can receive stuff. Large stuff, that is. For instance, the car dealers used to get their cars delivered by the rail this way onto the loading dock. And now this is another spur here. See, you can see sort of the layout of the track. So this spur, this is Dunkley's. Now there was a Dunkley's machine shop in Brattleboro too. So I'm stealing all these names. You can see inside. Upstairs there's like the office space. See that fat bastard leaning up against the counter there? He must be the boss. Then this is the Lane Press. That's another Vermont name. I think the Lane Press was in Burlington. I'm not sure though. I just remember it. And then on that same spur, this is the Central Vermont Freight House. This is where people would receive stuff by rail, but smaller stuff. Like, for instance, if some kid in town ordered a bicycle or something like that, it would come to this place. This was before the UPS revolution. And then this one is Ballantine for the Ale Man. This building is lit, but I haven't hooked up the wiring yet because I have to disassemble a lot to get the wiring hooked, and I finished this after I did some work that covered up the wiring. So, you know, this thing here is just a kind of a backyard, you know, back alley stuff down by the tracks. Then this is another, this building is also lit, but it's not wired up, you know, the wires are not hooked up. It's the, what I call the Swanton Courier. So this is supposed to represent Swanton. It doesn't really represent Swanton. That's just the name I gave it. But it is, it's possible that you could have an interchange in Swanton where the Central Vermont and the St. J and LC and Lamoille Valley railroads would all cross. So this is Valley Coal. This is their you know, coal receiving place. That building right there, that's going to be, that spot is going to be Bowman's Scrap Metal. Forrest Bowman's going to live on here. So there's going to be a scrap metal yard there with a, like a chain link fence around it and maybe a crane or something like that. This is, oh, you can see in there, there's stuff in there too. This is, there are two of them. This is M&I Kaiser Furniture Factory. And on that, the track where the Union Pacific car is, that's where they would receive raw materials, you know, wood, whatever, you know, all the stuff that they need to make their furniture. And then on this track where the Grand Trunk car is, that's where the finished furniture gets shipped out. And then the track that goes off to the upper right with the locomotive on it, that would be the St. J in Lamoille County. The other track, which goes left and right, would be the Central Vermont. And this track in here where, you know, the gondola and this other, that's the interchange track where the St. J and LC or Lamoille Valley would pick up cars that were left there by the Central Vermont. So that's the interchange between the two railroads. So this is the rolling stock. Not bad. Mostly plastic. Well, pretty much all plastic. All of my try and make the cars look old and used with various painting techniques. This flat car here, for instance, with the two black items, that would go to the team track. They got a bunch of reefers. They would go to the Nosses, and then also Valentine Ale, ship out beer and reefers. This is a nice locomotive here. This is a Canadian National. Canadian National and the Central Vermont had a long-term relationship, and actually the Canadian National owned the Central Vermont. So got a lot of scenicking to do. I mean, you know, really it should be all, you shouldn't see any of this stuff. So there it is, the big railroad. So this is basically two 2 feet by 16 feet. You can see how much room these things take. Guys have 50 by 70 layouts with, you know, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested.